Hello everybody, and welcome to the conclusion of the election hackathon. And for those who don't know what the election hackathon is, you probably heard about a bunch of issues that came as a result of the US presidential 2020 election regarding the integrity of our election system. Whether it's accessibility, whether it's education about our voting system, whether it's transparency in voting counting, whether it's disenfranchisement, direct versus representative democracy, the electoral college, cybersecurity. I'm running out of breath talking about all the issues. And rather than having people design a system that conforms to the US presidential election, we said scratch that. That's not inclusive enough. Democracy was made well before we had software engineering, well before we had app development, well before we had blockchain. So rather than conforming to a current system, the people at DevPost, the Minority Programmers, CGI, and Captech teamed up together to host a 17-day competition where competitors from all ages across the world designed their very own platform for their very own democratic voting system. The following is the results for the first, second, and third place winner for the prizes, and we are so proud to see people team up together to develop solutions to making the world a more democratic and more fair place. And as a minority programmer, I think this is absolutely wonderful that people are using technological tools to give voice to people. And a special thanks to our sponsor, CGI or CGI Federal. They are an IT consulting company that specializes in meeting clients' need in a scalable and attainable manner. And they have over 77,000 professionals in 400 locations worldwide. And CGI Federal actually deals with mission-critical solutions for the federal sector of the government in particular. So I highly recommend, especially you guys doing election solutions, that you go to careers at CGI and actually apply for one of their jobs. And again, a special warm thank you to CGI for providing all the support they did throughout this hackathon. And another very big thank you to Captech. Captech is a national consulting firm that helps clients grow efficient, successful businesses by bringing the data, the systems, and ingenuity organizations need to stay ahead. And I love the people here. They've been so nice to me, and they actually sponsored the last Black Lives Matter hackathon, and I'm so glad that they're able to provide another sponsorship and mentorship role this time around. So again, if you're interested in developing human-centered, relevant digital solutions, go to captechconsulting.com/careers and apply for a job and a career today at Captech. And they're based out of Richmond, Virginia, so we gotta show Virginia love. So again, thank you so much for all the support you've done throughout the past and now this hackathon. And before we start giving out prizes, I want to comment on how beautiful this whole process was and how everyone kind of got something out of it. The fact that us as minority programmers, this network of programmers and people who care about STEM and getting more diverse people in STEM can look at this humanitarian-centric issue, whether it's COVID or social justice in terms of the Black Lives Matter hackathon or election integrity, and throw this competition and then get industry partners to not only give sponsorship but mentorship roles so that people from all across the world and of different ages can develop solutions and meet other programmers that they're proud of and actually put that on their resume is a beautiful thing. And it just makes me smile every time I see a new project and someone in high school developing like something that I could not do at that age, or someone from across the world like showing that these problems are relevant to people everywhere. And so this brings us great joy, and I completely applaud everyone, the organizers, the sponsors, the mentors, the participants, and anybody spreading out the word. And I'm so glad to continue competitions like this, continue projects like this, and not only help develop this network of international programmers who are not only using their skills to program for good, but help develop other people's network. Because I truly do believe that STEM is one of the biggest catalysts for upward mobility, and that getting to affected individuals and making this more hip and more modern is going to be one of the keys to bringing diversity into the field, and not only diversity of people but diversity of ideas. So again, thank you, and shout out to everyone who helped make the election hackathon come together. And again, thank you so much.
Dear minority programmers and election hackathon teams, I'd like to demonstrate to you a solution developed in the scope of the hackathon targeting issues of security, confidentiality, fraud prevention, ticket-free voting for voter bribing prevention, transparent and reliable voter invitation, and anonymous authentication with the option of proving the fact of voting without the ability of choice disclosure. The beauty of the solution is not in its exterior, but in its cryptographic hierarchical identities data model and mathematical verification of results and protection of confidentiality, choice uniqueness, and voter authenticity. The demonstrated solution uses a blockchain as a tamper-proof storage, assuring transparency, and namely it is RSK blockchain in this case. There are three actor types that will participate in the current demonstration. Identity providers, like the Ministry of Interior in our case, users representing voters, and the election committee providing the capability of polls creation, management, and results observing. It might be required to provide identity providers with the test funds. If you will see a triangle with an exclamation sign, just click on the button copy so the blockchain address of the identity provider will be copied, go to RSK faucet and request funds for the RSK testnet. Now you will need to wait for test funds delivery confirmation. Once test funds were requested for each identity provider, you will need to refresh the page and wait until all required initializations will pass, which includes registration of identity providers and their identity scheme creation using smart contract on the RSK testnet. Now let's create several user wallets. And then we will need to request the user's identity just for emulating the situation right before voting. Users are owning their identity in their identity wallets. Once all users receive their identities, let's go to the election committee page and register there a poll, the Best Actress 2020. When we'll decide to activate our poll by setting its state to started, we'll need to choose the identity provider holding identities of our users. At this moment, the election committee is issuing identity attributes serving as a voter invitation without disclosure of the actual identity of the voter and mathematically verifiable delivery, so no discrimination can be done. Let's go back to a user's identity wallet where we will see that a part of its core identity, it appears additional entry issued by the poll and the user can make his choice securely and anonymously. When the user made his choice, the identity issued by the poll disappears and no more additional votes are available. Once all users made their choices, we can go to the election committee poll page and see the resulted votes cast by the users. Despite the storage is transparent and immutable blockchain, the data itself is quantum computer resistant cryptographic commitments named Pedersen commitments that are perfect hiding and computationally binding. All transactions are transferred using the O10 proprietary network and unique cryptographic identity sharing protocol, providing capabilities of inevitable detection and instant prevention of unsanctioned usage of personal identity. The election committee uses multi-party computation, providing cryptographically verifiable proof of voter choice without the possibility of choice tampering and preventing choice proof by a voter, thus avoiding the possibility of voter bribing. The combination of all factors said above makes the voting platform be naturally integrated into the identity sharing and management system, thus eliminating the cumbersomeness and additional frictions of the technological product for the very regular user.
Welcome to Vote by Nirul Oman Shrikar. Just over 50% of American citizens vote in the general election, and around 28 to 32% of Americans vote in their local election. We have created the Vote app that allows users to vote quickly, safely, and effectively, while also providing them with possible local elections in their area and daily news about in order to increase voting turnouts and make the general public more involved and informed about various elections.
Welcome to Vote, which stands for Voting Online Tools for Election. Vote is a web app that makes casting a vote easy and simple while keep making your vote secure. Here, let's get into the app. We're able to click on the login page and create and register an account if we don't have an account, and here I'll type in some information. We use Google Firebase for our backend where all this data is stored. Here I'll go ahead and agree to terms and policy and go to Firebase to show that there are not users besides the ones we're testing in. And here you see I input example at example.com, and after I register successfully, it signs me in. And if we go to Firebase, we see that our new user is present. Let's go back and let's get started with our first feature, which is this politician search and stances page. Here we can click a link that helps us find the year they were in and various politicians. I can go ahead and click on various other years. However, one thing is that this search only supports 2013-14 up to 2020. And the other link also shows us member ID. For sake of time, I'm going to input some member IDs I already have written. And I'll quickly type these in and select the appropriate year. And we see that statement types, date, title, and state and party all show up. For example, we can see that Representative Nanette Barragan had these various statements in public. We can do this, let's just try again with a different member ID, and this time Representative Cynthia Axney, and we're able to see the data presented below. And now let's go into our second feature, which is a search pill politician feature. Here we can do the same thing with the links, but first, for the sake of time, I'll input the same member IDs I did before, and we get a bill URL as well, which we can go to paste into our tab and find the bill and the various information regarding that. Now if we go back, we can see and try this again with various other things, and we can also see, let's say, updated bills, the active bills, their past bills, and their inactive bills. And as we see, this representative has not passed any bills. We can go ahead and try this with our other two member IDs for sake of time, and here we see that new results pop up once we switch back to the introduce section, and now going to our last representative test, Representative Kelly Armstrong. And now let's go back to the dashboard to review our other feature, which is the news feature. If we go ahead and click on this, we're able to click on news. News is vital in order to know information regarding your politicians, what they're going to do, and how and what is related to them, and what's happening in the general world. This is why we've created a news API feed, which allows us to get reliable news sources. Here I can just click on an article and it'll redirect me to information, while if we go back, we can see that on our page we have a small summary of what the article talks about. And we see there's more articles like this, and we can go ahead and press this to see this truly works. Now we can go back to the dashboard page and check out our polling locations. Here we're able to type in our local address and see elected representatives in our address and the polling locations nearby us. Here I'll type in one of our addresses and press the search bar, and we're able to see the various elementary schools and churches that have been listed as polling centers, and also see elected representatives in that address, including the party position and phone number. We can also try other addresses, and here we're able to see the Detroit Community Center, and the various representatives in Michigan. And we see their displayed picture as well. And we can try again once again. This is powered by Google Civic Information API and Google Maps autofill address autofill API. And here once again we see our results. Now, if we go back to dashboard, we can see our last feature. Here we're able to type in information regarding our first, middle name, last name, full address, date of birth, and place of birth. Additionally, the idea of this is that there is a file back in our code which we are able to edit, and if I was holding a voter, I would add in their data corresponding to this, and over here, this for loop actually checks for those conditions and will redirect us to the main ballot page if those conditions are met. Here, I'll just test this out and add an extra letter, and hence this should not work. If we go ahead and press submit ballot, we see that we are denied, and we can try again later, and we go ahead and press ballots again, and we can try the real ID that we saw that worked inside in our array. The idea of this is that registered voters can easily have an array, and they can put that array in the code, which would allow us to check it actively. The last part of this verification form, we have a ML model that classifies and verifies any IDs. This will be presented by Neural, and due to flash bottlenecks, we're not able to host this on the same device and on the current live hosting site.
So as Om just mentioned, in order to be eligible to vote and fill out a ballot, you also have to be registered for authentication. The user must input a valid signature and passport. It can be a passport or an ID. In this case, we have this invalid driver's license that we have downloaded. And our machine learning model, which has a high confidence, will convert the image to text and detect if the date of expiration is already passed or if it's not. And it will also detect by the look of the license if it is invalid. As you can see, we put the invalid license. So as we try to submit our ballot, we are unable to go to the next page. Now let's try it again with a valid driver's license. Here we'll take a valid driver's license, and when we submit that, as you can see, we go right away to our submit our ballot page. If we go in our terminal, we can see the first 2 times we clicked the button, we were unable to be authenticated. Hence it says the user is not authenticated. And when we put a valid license, we were able to go to the next page. Hence it says the name Om K. Joshi is authenticated.
Here in Firestore, we're about to post our ballot, so let me just refresh it to show you there's nothing there. And I'll check my ballot and submit it. And we see we have a success icon. If we refresh in Firebase, we're able to see this ballot pop up in the candidate vote for, the encrypted ID for security purposes, and the name. Thank you for listening to the demo of the Vote app, and thank you for hosting this hackathon. Have a nice day.
Hi, my name is Mish, and this is our Majority Hacks pitch video for a project called Vote Now. All around the news, you see reports that Trump might not leave office, and he is even claiming that the mail-in election is rigged. Misinformation is one of our biggest problems right now, and is threatening to burn the country to ashes. To make sure that everybody votes on time, we have made an app called Vote Now. Groups are targeting certain races, and that means that these races will not be able to vote on time. For example, if there's propaganda all around the city with mostly African American people saying that you should vote on November 4th instead of November 3rd, their vote will not be counted. And if this happens on multiple cities, then it can greatly affect the outcome of the election. Now, we are planning to add push notifications to our app, but since we don't have the funds to do that, this is an enhancement. As voting has now been done long distance, security is one of the most important things you can have. The only way voters can trust us is if we can prove to them that this is not rigged. To do this, we have teamed up with Firebase to create a safe and secure database. Anybody can read data from our database, but only certain people can manually write the data, such as administrators like me. Also, you can only vote once. It doesn't matter if you uninstall or reinstall the app, or reboot your phone. Your data will be saved in our keychain forever. Now, let's hop into Xcode and see how the code works.
Let me first show you the demo of our app. The first thing you see when you open the app is the home page. And in here, there are 2 options. There is the vote option or the view candidate policies option. For now, we will be going the vote option. Here is a search bar where you can enter your state. And I live in California, so California is my state. Next, I will enter my race. For now, I will be selecting the race Other. The race bar is not needed, which is why I prefer not to say option. Now here you can see that I have already voted, but if you haven't already voted, it would first ask you if you wanted to see the policies, and then it would ask you to confirm that you want to vote. If I click on policies, there's a tab bar that you can select to see a few policies of each candidate. Now, of course, these are not all the policies, as that would be way too long. But this is some that we have selected out. And also, there's an icon, as Biden is a circle, Trump is a square, Joe Jorgensen is a triangle, and Howie Hawkins is a diamond. If we go back, once you have voted, you can see the stats. The stats come with an animation, and you can even spin it around. If you select it, the stats become highlighted. Thank you for looking at my demo app. And now let's move on to the code. Talk about the code behind this app. The first piece of code that I will show you is the code behind the first view controller, which is the search bar view controller. The search bar view controller is not too hard to implement, as all you have to do is filter the data and show the data. But its logic is so beautiful that it doesn't take many lines of code to do. The next piece of code that I'll show you is the race view controller. Although this may look a bit repetitive, it is needed, as for every single button, you will need different images, and all the other images must not be selected. For example, if I click on the Indian race button, that one should be selected, and all the others should not be selected. And we also have this selected variable that we want to change. Then we pass the data to the next view controller, which is the main view controller. This view controller is the most complicated, with nearly 200 lines of code. It is separated into two main parts: the picker view setup and the voting setup. The picker view setup is just average picker view setup, with you adding your picker values, and then I have the selected value too. Next is the vote tapped. When the vote is tapped, it first checks if you have already voted. If you haven't already voted, it will first show an alert view of the policies. It will ask you if you would like to look over the policies. Then it will ask to confirm your vote. This getData function is used in most functions here. It takes the data from Firebase and outputs it to the label. If they haven't already voted, to not influence the voter, the label text is just select a candidate to vote. Then there is this update data function. It just updates the data to Firebase by adding the vote count 1. Now let's move on to the last view controller with code, the pie chart view controller. This big piece of code is me getting the data from Firebase and then putting it to each entry. The actual pie chart setup is simple, and I'm using an API to do this. Next, let's go to the storyboard to see the tab bar view controller. Now each different tab bar has different information for each different candidate. There's one for Biden, there's one for Trump, there's one for Jorgensen, and there's one for Hawkins. Although this is not all the data, as that would be too much, this is some of it. Thank you for looking at my pitch video, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day.